What if everything you believed about yourself was wrong? What if the reason you haven't started that business, built that savings habit, or taken control of your financial future has nothing to do with your work ethic? What if you were never lazy? What if you were just stolen from? Stay with me, because what you are about to hear will completely change the way you see yourself and the world quietly working against you. There is a war being fought right now, and it is not happening on a battlefield. It is happening inside your mind every single day. In the 1970s, a psychologist named Herbert Simon said something that most people ignored at the time. He said, "A wealth of information creates a poverty of attention." Think about that. He said this before smartphones, before social media, before algorithms were designed to be as addictive as slot machines. He was warning us about a world that hadn't even arrived yet. Today, the average person touches their phone over 2,600 times a day. Not because they are addicted, not because they are weak, but because entire teams of engineers, brilliant, highly paid engineers, sit in offices and ask one question every morning. How do we keep this person's attention for one more second? One more second, multiplied by 300 million users. That is billions of seconds of human potential quietly disappearing every single day. Now here's the part that should hit you hard. The people building those systems, the ones engineering your distraction, they are not distracted themselves. They have strict screen time limits. Their children go to tech-free schools. They read physical books. They sit in silence. They understand something most people don't. Focused attention is the rarest and most valuable currency on earth. And while you are scrolling, they are building. While your attention is scattered, theirs is laser focused on the next decision, the next opportunity, the next level of wealth. You were never lazy. You were simply never told that your attention was being harvested. And when your attention is gone, so is your ability to think clearly, plan deeply, and act with purpose. The first step to changing your financial life is not discipline. It is reclaiming your mind. Let me tell you about a man named Marcus. Marcus was 31 years old, smart, educated, full of ideas. Every Sunday evening, he would sit down with a fresh cup of coffee, open his laptop, and tell himself, "This week is different. This week I start." He had a list. Start an online income stream, read about investing, build a financial plan, exercise in the mornings. And every Sunday night, that list looked exactly the same as the Sunday before. Marcus wasn't lazy. You would know that if you watched his day. He was exhausted by 9 p.m. He worked hard at his job. He ran errands. He cooked. He tried. But here is what Marcus never noticed. From the moment he woke up, he handed his brain to other people. The news first thing in the morning. The group chats buzzing with opinions. The short videos during lunch. The arguments in comment sections that he couldn't resist. The endless recommendations of things to watch, buy, react to. By the time Marcus sat down to do something meaningful, his brain had already run a marathon. Not a physical marathon, a mental one. Every notification, every headline, every 30-second clip had used up a tiny drop of his cognitive energy. And cognitive energy, much like money, can run out. Psychologists call this decision fatigue and attention residue. The mental pollution left behind from constantly switching between tasks and stimuli. Marcus had given away his best hours before the day even truly began. Does this sound familiar? The reason most people feel like they cannot get ahead financially is not because they lack intelligence or ambition. It is because the environment they have built around themselves slowly drains the mental fuel required to think long-term. Wealth, real, lasting wealth, is not built in moments of excitement. It is built in moments of deep, undistracted thinking. Thinking that asks, where am I going? What matters? What do I cut out? And you simply cannot think those thoughts while your phone is buzzing. Marcus eventually changed, not by becoming a different person, but by changing his environment. He put his phone in a drawer until 10 a.m. He protected his mornings like they were gold, because they were. Within 6 months, he had built a side income, started a small investment habit, and for the first time in years, he felt like his life had direction. He didn't become smarter, he became clearer. In 2004, a young woman named Sara was driving to work in Atlanta, Georgia. She had $5,000 in savings and an idea. Not a great education in business, not wealthy parents, not a network of powerful connections. What she had was something more valuable than any of those things. She had the ability to think without noise. Sara had a ritual. Every morning before the world woke up, she would sit alone, no television, no radio, no distraction, and she would simply think. She would ask herself questions about what she wanted, about what problems existed that nobody had solved, about where her energy was going and whether it was moving her forward. That quiet, deliberate thinking led her to build Spang, a company that eventually made her a billionaire. She has spoken openly about this practice. She says that most of her best ideas and business decisions came not from frantic activity but from protected stillness. Now, this is not a story about getting rich quickly. This is a story about the psychology that creates the conditions for wealth to grow. What Sara understood, what most wealthy people quietly practice, is something psychologists call deep work. The ability to focus without distraction on something that is cognitively demanding and genuinely valuable. In a world where the average person can barely concentrate for 4 minutes before reaching for their phone, the person who can sit with a single problem for 2 focused hours holds an almost unfair advantage. Think about what that means for you. Imagine spending just 2 focused hours every week, thinking clearly about your financial direction. Not scrolling for tips, not watching someone else talk about money. Actually thinking, asking yourself hard questions, writing down answers, making decisions. Most people never do this, not once in a year. The gap between where you are and where you want to be is not filled with more information. It is filled with focused, intentional thought, applied consistently over time. Sara Blakely did not have more hours than you. She simply refused to let those hours be stolen. Here is the truth that nobody wants to say out loud. Distraction is not just something that happens to you. Over time, for many people, it becomes something they choose even unconsciously, because distraction is comfortable. It is stimulating. It is instant. Focusing on your future is not, it is slow. It is uncertain. It asks you to sit with discomfort, with unanswered questions, with the weight of your own ambition. And so the mind, trained over years of instant gratification, finds a way to escape. You open the app, you scroll for a minute, and that uncomfortable feeling of unfinished business quietly fades. But here's what also fades: your vision, your momentum, your self-belief. Because every time you choose distraction over intention, something happens in the subconscious. You tell yourself a small, quiet story. The story that says, I couldn't do it today, maybe tomorrow. And tomorrow turns into a habit. And a habit turns into a life. The psychology of wealth is not complicated. It is about closing the gap between what you intend and what you actually do consistently, day after day, in small but powerful ways. Every wealthy mind I have ever studied had one thing in common. Not a great school, not perfect timing, not luck. They were all unreasonably protective of their attention. They treated their focus like a resource that ran out, because it does. They guarded their mornings. They chose their inputs carefully. They built environments that made deep thinking easy and shallow distraction hard. This is not willpower. It is design. And you can design your life the same way. Starting today, starting now. You came into this world with curiosity, imagination, and the ability to think deeply. Those are not things that disappear. They are things that get buried under noise. So here is what I want to leave with you. You are not behind because you are broken. You are not stuck because you are incapable. You have simply been operating in an environment that was never designed for your success. It was designed for your engagement. And those are two very different things. The moment you decide to take your attention back to protect your thinking time, like your future depends on it, because it does, something remarkable begins to happen. Your ideas get clearer. Your decisions get sharper. Your habits begin to align with what you actually want. The path to a better financial life, a better professional life, a better version of yourself. It does not begin with a great opportunity or perfect conditions. It begins with a quiet morning, a phone face down, a mind that is finally allowed to think. You were never lazy. You were distracted. And now you know the difference. Paizu, wanna guard your attention like it is the most valuable thing you own. Because it is,